Alrighty, folks, I am so excited about this morning. Hello, welcome in everybody. Welcome back to Adobe Live. My name is VooDoo Val, and I am going to be your host yet again this morning for the Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge. Today is something special. I really do believe so. I'm very excited to kind of show you folks what we're going to be diving into, but first I would love to just remind you that we do have a new Adobe Live schedule for 2023. So those of you who are tuning in at what is the usual time for the Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge, please keep in mind that all of the challenges now are back to back to back. So coming up right after me is going to be the Illustrator Daily Creative Challenge and the Video Challenge. So you can kind of get all of the challenges going all at once if you would like to learn all different kinds of things about design and creativity. This is the time of day to really dive into some hands-on challenges and things. But without further ado, what are we working on today? Welcome in everybody in the live chat. It's good to see all you folks. To see Dorina and Anki, Michelle, RB. I've missed you folks so much over the holiday season. It's good to see you. We are going to be diving into custom mockups, and if you click the link in the description below, you can download the starter file that I'm going to be working with. So we're going to be diving into mockups. We're going to be creating some pretty cool cutouts in our mockups, and I'm even going to take it a step further. If you folks follow me on social media, I did make a promise that today's challenge would not stop at branding identity and graphic design. We are going to be going into some really awesome techniques and tricks that you can use if you were an illustrator, if you were a painter. How can custom mockups benefit you as well? So I'm pretty pumped about it. Let's dive in. If you download the starter file, you will get something like this. It says custom mockups: use shapes and transform tools to build a box mockup. Convert your shapes to smart objects that can be customized. Edit your smart objects with custom branding. Experiment with masks to create a cutout effect. So this is what you will see. I have a super secret bonus folder in here, which you folks won't see. This is something that I actually put together real quick just so that I would have a an example to show you for the illustration portion, which is going to be very exciting. But you will be able to create your own little bonus folder by the time we are done with our challenge for today. So I'm going to go ahead and hide our info, and we're just going to look at our box mockup. So this is something that I have created with smart objects, as I said, and if I open my folder here, you can see what we're working with. So I've got all of the box side, the box top, the box front. I've got a full shape that is the exact shape of our box with all its sides, a little box tab like it hangs on a shelf, and the surface of our table here. But what is a mockup? If you folks have never used a mockup and are kind of new to this concept, this is the kind of thing we're doing. So if I double click, because these are all smart objects, if I double click our box front, you can see it opens up the design that we have there on the front of our box. And if I bump this over, just hover it over here and open it, I can actually open my files side by side. I can zoom out there. I can come over here to our box challenge and kind of bump this over so that we can take a look at them both. And I can edit whatever I want here in the front of our box. So for example, if I decide I want to turn on our little Photoshop challenge number 2 here, I can do whatever I want here, and as long as I save it, you can see that it pops up on our box here in perspective, which is really cool. So how do we create something like this from scratch? How do we make this work? How do we edit all of these faces and transform flat shapes into something like this? Well, I am going to show you. What we're going to do is we are going to hide the front of our box here. And I am just going to recreate kind of what we've got going. And keep in mind, I'm making a box, but you can make all kinds of shapes with this. You could make triangles, you could make circles, you could make all sorts of stuff. And this is how you do it. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to snag our shape tool, which you can grab just by pressing U on your keyboard, and I'm going to pop myself over to the other side of the screen real quick just so you can really see this. I can grab my rectangle tool, but if I right click it, you can see I also have an ellipse tool, a triangle tool, polygon tool, line tool, custom shape tool. So I can do, as I said, any shape that I want to create a custom mockup. I can grab whatever I want. You could even use the pen tool to do some crazy wild shapes if you want, but we'll use the rectangle tool for now. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hold shift and I'm gonna drag out a square just to constrain the proportions so it is a perfect square. And it looks a little something like this. I've actually got this underneath our box side, which I don't want, so I'm going to just bump that up in our lineup here, and I'll move myself back over so I'm not covering my layers. Now this shape is it's bright pink. we don't want it to be bright pink, so in my properties here, I am just going to click my fill color. And I'm going to select my solid color picker here, and I will just grab, I could grab one of these green colors, but I might actually like to kind of do what we did before and just select a much warmer kind of yellowish tone, which might be good for us. Let's do something like that. That works for me. Now, let's go ahead and hit OK. And so now we have a nice little yellow square. And what I'd like to do is transform this into a smart object. And I want to transform this into a smart object before I start transforming and warping it into the perspective shape that we're looking for. Because if I were to transform this into the size and shape that we need for it to fit the front of our box, when I double click it to open it, it will be in that shape. But if it is a smart object before I make the transform into a smart object, it will hold its square proportions, and whatever I apply or place into that smart object container will be applied into the perspective that I transformed it into, if that makes sense. And I will show you now. I'm just going to right click my layer and say convert to smart object. So now if I double click this, you can see it opens my little square shape just like so. And what I meant before by transforming it first is now that it's a smart object, I can hit Control T or Command T if you're working on a Mac, and I can start to kind of warp this into the proper shape. A really good tip as you start to create this sort of thing is if you want to really make sure that these things are lined up. You can see my grids are snapping. You can see my little magenta lines popping up to make sure that I am kind of aligned to all of these faces of my other box. If you don't see those when you start your project, just hit Control H, and that will hide or unhide your grids and your snapping lines and things. So now I'm gonna transform this. So I'm just gonna right click and I'm gonna hit skew, and this is gonna allow me to skew this like so. So I'm just lining it up with my box like that. And I can then go back into, let's go Control T or Command T again, just to put us back into the regular transform option. And I can come in and start to really just kind of place that in and hit enter. So now I've got the front of a box, and as I said, now that I have transformed this after making it a smart object, if I double click my rectangle, you can see it's still in square mode. And if I go ahead and drag this over here and just pin it, and we will get this view going so we can see what we're doing here on both of our different files, I can make sure I'm clicked over here into this. I can make a new layer with Control or Command Shift in, and I can grab, let's grab my brush, and I would like to grab the soft round brush. I will set this to dissolve because I love using my handy dandy noise brush. I'll kind of pull this down so I can see more colors. And we could come in with our brush and just start kind of dropping in some color like that. Maybe we'll even grab like a more red color and just kind of throw this in like so. And now if I hit save, Control S or Command S, you can see that applies it, and it is applied in perspective, which is really nice. So you can create whatever shape box you want for this. If I want to add text, or more designs. Maybe I want to add a little bit of white to the top here just to give it a little more light, which is kind of cool. So it kind of blends in with the rest. I can hit T on my keyboard, and I can come in and say, I'm going to pick somebody in the chat. I see Dorina is here with us today. So I'm just going to put Dorina's name. Put Dorina's name on this box, and I'll just transform this. You could, I mean, you could change the size of the text in the actual paragraph styles. I'm just going to go ahead and transform it because why not? And then if I save, you can see Dorina's name is now in there in perspective, which is really cool. So you can build all the faces of your box just like so. But one thing that you can also do is you can mask things to create cutouts in your box. So if I wanted to create a cutout for this, I could come in and make all of my layers where I have added texture and color to my square. I could right click these and make them a clipping mask so it's clipped to my rectangle. And then I could come in with a rectangular marquee tool if I want, and we could just kind of grab a little bit of our box like so, maybe like this. And I could right click, let's say select inverse. I might actually not have needed to select inverse for, no, I did. All right. Just making sure that I am masking out everything that's not selected. We create a little cutout like so, and then I could say Control S to save, and you can see that cuts that out right there from our box. So we could even come over, let's go ahead and close this. We could even come over to our box side here. And we could, let's go ahead and open this one up. Let's bring this over here so we can look at all of our files together, like so. And we could line up a cutout with this. Now this might be slightly tricky because you really do have to line up the shape of the cutout with the side of the box. And it takes a little noodling, maybe more noodling than we have time for in our 30-minute stream because we do want to get through a lot of stuff. But I'm just going to real quick do the same thing here just to show you how you don't have to use only boxes for this challenge. You really can come through and customize things in a really surprisingly awesome way. So I'll just select inverse. I'm just eyeballing it here, but I can hit my mask and then hit save, and you can see, oh, I mean, not too bad. I probably need to bump this down a little bit. Let's go ahead and I'm gonna select this. Let's grab my magic wand tool, and I'm just going to select my, can I select this? Oh, let's make sure we could actually undo and transform our selection. That will probably work. So let's go right here. Let's say transform selection, and I'm just going to use my arrow keys to bump this down a little bit like that. Maybe that will be enough, like so. And I'll hit enter, and then I'll grab my rectangular marquee tool and hold shift and just add a little more selection there, and we will mask that. Let's go ahead and mask that, and then I'll hit save. Close, it's close, but you can see, you know, you noodle with that, you can start getting a little cutout, and in the starter file, I do actually have that box shape in the back, so there's kind of a little background, you know, and you could put stuff in your box. You could do all kinds of things with this, creating a lot of different use cases for a custom box. And one thing, because I'm kind of working with the starter file here with the elements that are already pre-made, I would like to kind of walk you through some of the things that you may need to know if you are kind of starting this from scratch. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to remove our mask here. Let's go ahead and delete that layer mask and save, and I will close this, and then I'm going to come back to our box front, our new box front, and I'm going to delete this layer mask as well. We'll go ahead and delete that and save it and come back to our file. So we have just our solid box. So as I built this box for you all, we've gone over how to make the front face of this, but if you are going to be creating your own box mock-up from scratch, um, you want to make sure that you are not creating a smart object and then duplicating that smart object to create the other faces of your box. Because if you do that, you'll get something like this. So say, let's go ahead and hide um, our box side. Well, we'll create this over it and then we'll hide it. So maybe I've made my rectangle here for the box shape. One of your first instincts might be to just duplicate this with Control or Command J, uh, hit Control or Command T to transform, and then you can flip it horizontal and just start to um, oops, and just start to bring this in and skew it and make your other box side like that. And maybe you even come in and duplicate this. Maybe you duplicate this and maybe you turn this, oops, don't want to drag it too much. Let's go ahead and flip that horizontal. Maybe you want to come in and just add things in like so. Maybe you distort this and you drag the corners of your box out like so. Because why not? You're using it's just another square. But the problem with this, and this is maybe just a little bit wonky, and I'm going to try not to be too totally precious with it since we have limited time here today. But the problem with doing it like this is that if I come in, maybe I want to add something to the face of my box now. If I come in and double click this front of my box, and we open this, I'll angle this again so we can see everything. The problem with that is that now maybe I'll take a blue color just to really let you see the difference here, is that they're all duplicated. So if I come in with a brush and I want, the corner of this to be blue. Maybe we'll do this corner here. I want the corner of this to be blue to separate it from the sides of my piece here. And I hit save. It did it to all of them because it's all duplicated. So we can even grab, let's do it over here so it's separated a little bit. If I put it here and I save, you can see it added it to all of the faces. So you really want to create individual shapes and make each one manually so that you don't get that strange little overlap. And you can create all different kinds of shapes as you do this, which is really cool. So you can come in and add your branding. My version of this that I've created is really quite illustrative because I just kind of used my handy dandy dissolve brush to build kind of a 3D looking base here. I'm going to go ahead actually and group these and hide them. We'll turn on our mock-up front again. I've done mine a little bit more illustrative, but you could composite images to give this like a real good cardboard vibe, add all of the details and things that you want as you go through. Just spending a little more time. But there are a lot of other uses for a mock-up like this. And this is where the bonus part of this challenge comes in, because I have promised that if you are an illustrator or a painter, you can make use of mock-ups as well. You don't have to be just somebody who's into branding identity or graphic design to really get a lot of value out of something like this. So what is a box, ladies and gentlemen, but a building? A box could be a piece of clothing. A box could be a piece of jewelry. A box could be the inside hallway of an interior design. It could be so many things. And remember, we don't just have to use boxes. We can make custom shapes, all kinds of things that we can edit in this manner. So what if you're like me? I paint a lot of creatures and characters. I paint a lot of portraits and things. But perhaps you struggle with creating buildings and interior and exterior design elements and things. Perhaps you struggle a little bit with working in perspective. Hard surface elements are actually very difficult for me to do because I am more used and more skilled when it comes to painting organic things. So I use this sometimes to paint buildings. So if I wanted to paint a building, all I have to do is make myself a little box and I can paint everything not in perspective and it will be applied that way. So here I've got a little building started where I've just made myself a longer box. And if I open this, I can come in and start editing all the faces of my building. So I could come in here, let's go into our side right quick because we've got our face painted in here, but let's come over to our side and see how we could really use this and apply it to illustration and digital painting if we wanted to. So I've got our little Adobe building. Looks a little dreary. I think Adobe is a lot more exciting than all of this, but I've got my piece here, and I'm going to turn my brush mode off of dissolve back into normal. I'm going to come in with a little painterly brush, and I'm just going to sample this wood here, and I'm going to come in and I think I could place it about here. I could come in and just draw myself the continuation of this wood on the side of my building. Let's see if we line that up well enough. Not bad, not bad, not bad. I think I'll add just a tiny bit more to the end here, and maybe subtract from the top of our building, just like so. Let me hold shift and just kind of cruise. Oh, I'm painting directly on this thing. We shouldn't do that. But that's fine. We'll actually leave it. Let's do it like this. Make sure I got that going. Perfect. All right, there we go. I could snag this light brown color right here, and I could continue the brightness here, grab some of the shadow, and continue this shadow here. Boom. I'm starting to build that that building out on the side. It could be really awesome. And I could paint all kinds of stuff. Maybe I want to I'll sketch in some more windows here. Doesn't have to be extra fancy, but you can kind of get the gist of like where I'm going with this. If I decide that I want to add more stuff to my little building mock-up, I could easily build myself a little city if I want to. It could be really interesting. Another thing that you can do is after you design your building or whatever kind of object you'd like to use when it comes to illustration, I'll go ahead and close this, is you can come in and you could actually start painting directly on this, illustrators. You could come in, make a new layer, and maybe I decide I want an awning of sorts to go over my little building part here. Maybe I want to do something like this, you know. Grab my eraser, kind of make this a little bit shorter. Maybe I want to do like a little awning over my windows to protect my friendly folks inside from the rays of sun that would undoubtedly be coming in through this window. And I could just paint directly on here if I want. In fact, I could actually make my awning another smart object if I wanted to. I wouldn't even really have to do it manually like this. If I wanted to just start painting this and making it a real looking building and give it some more pizzazz, I could do a smart object for this too. So I could, instead of just painting here, I could grab myself another rectangle, and I could make a little rectangle like that, just like that. We'll make this a smart object. Boom, convert to smart object. I'll zoom in here and we'll place this as like a little awning. Can put that right there. Let's get into some skew here. Let's skew that down like so, so it's a nice even plane. And let's go ahead and skew this way. Oh yeah. Control T to free transform that and throw that up here just like that. Get our little awning in there. And then I can double click this. Let's go ahead and double click, bring this over to the edge of our canvas here. We can watch the magic happen. Maybe I want to add in some darker colors, some weird tones here, just to make it a little more detailed. I want to make sure that I am selected on my brush tool, if I can. Oh, I've got another window open on my other monitor. But yeah, you can see I could come in here and I could add some other colors, some other shapes. I could grab some of this blue here, and I could put like some stripes on our awning if I wanted to, like so. Go ahead and save that. Boom, there we got our little awning in there. And then I could come in and add some details the way I like on a new layer, maybe some little hanging down portions like so. You know, so there's a lot of stuff you can do. I think I'm coming to the end of our time here, but there's a lot of different use cases and things for this challenge. Whether you're an illustrator or a designer, you can make use of custom mockups however you please. I hope that you have enjoyed this challenge. I can't wait to join you tomorrow morning for challenge number 3, which is going to be particularly awesome. Thank you, everyone. Don't forget to download the starter file and create something along with me, and the link to the Discord is below as well, where you can share your work with me and I will give you some feedback. So that is all the time I have for today. Thank you very much, and I will see you next time.